A drunken girl woke up, married to a stranger who turned out to be a CEO truly devoted to her. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us get back to our main character. Rain tapped softly against the windows of the downtown hotel bar, blurring the neon lights outside into streaks of gold and red. Inside, the air hummed with music, laughter, and the clinking of glasses. Olivia Hayes gripped the edge of the counter, her second margarita melting fast. Her heart was still raw from the breakup that had blindsided her last week, and tonight she wanted nothing more than to forget every detail of it. Her best friend's voice echoed in her head. One night out, one drink, just breathe again. But one drink had turned into several, and everything after that had turned into a haze of pulses, colors, and a warm voice beside her asking if she was all right. She remembered fragments, a deep laugh, a steady hand catching her elbow when she nearly slipped, a name she could not quite hold on to, the soft smell of cedar on his jacket as he offered it to her in the pouring rain. Then everything dissolved into darkness. When Olivia's eyes opened the next morning, sunlight stabbed through unfamiliar curtains. Her head throbbed, her throat was dry. She sat up slowly, blinking at the pristine white room, the high ceiling, the polished wood floors. This was definitely not her studio apartment. Her stomach dropped when she noticed the ring, a simple silver band on her finger. Before she could process anything, the bathroom door opened. A tall man stepped out wearing a crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled to his forearms, dark hair still damp from the shower. His presence filled the room instantly calm, controlled, powerful in a quiet way. He looked at her with a softness she did not expect. "Good morning," he said gently. "How are you feeling?" Her breath hitched. Who are you?" He hesitated for only a second. "My name is Ethan Cole," her voice cracked. "And why am I wearing a ring?" Ethan exhaled slowly, taking the chair across from her as if approaching a frightened animal. "Olivia, last night you insisted that you did not want to go home alone. You were scared someone might take advantage of you." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "You asked me to take you somewhere safe. So, I brought you here. I made sure you slept. I kept my distance." Her cheeks burned with embarrassment, but a part of her relaxed. He seemed sincere, steady, honest. "But the ring?" she whispered. He ran a hand through his hair, visibly nervous for the first time. "You were very drunk. The courthouse across the street had a late-night judge. You said you were tired of men who lied to you. You said you wanted something real. You asked me if I believed in commitment." He swallowed. "You asked if I would marry you, and you refused to leave until I agreed." Olivia stared at him, speechless, her heart pounding. "You could have said no," she murmured. A faint smile tugged at his mouth. "I tried. You started crying and told me you were done giving your heart to people who never stayed." He looked down, almost shy. "I did not want you to cry. So, I agreed. But I planned to annul it first thing in the morning." A silence settled between them, heavy, confused, surreal. Then Olivia noticed something on the nightstand, a leather wallet embossed with a logo she recognized from financial news. Cole Enterprises, one of the most influential tech investment firms in the country. Her eyes widened. Ethan Cole? As in, CEO Ethan Cole?" He froze for a moment before he nodded. Her breath left her body in a rush. She had gotten drunkenly married to a billionaire CEO, and the strangest part was the way he was looking at her now. Calm, patient, almost protective, like he was prepared to face whatever storm her reaction might bring. "Before you panic," he said softly, "I meant what I told you last night. I would never take advantage of you. I signed that certificate because you were hurting, and I did not want you to feel abandoned again." His voice dropped to something warmer. "If you want to annul it, I will support you completely. If you want time to think, I will respect that too." Olivia swallowed hard, trying to process everything. One night, one broken heart. One stranger who had stepped into the chaos with steady hands and gentle eyes. And now, she was his wife. Her life had changed in a single drunken breath, and she had no idea that Ethan Cole, quiet, powerful, and unexpectedly sincere, was about to change it even more. Olivia sat on the edge of the bed, her fingers trembling slightly as she stared at the silver ring. Sunlight warmed her shoulders, but her chest felt tight, as if the room were shrinking around her. Ethan remained seated across from her, giving her space, his posture steady and composed. Nothing about him felt threatening. If anything, his calmness made the situation even more surreal. She took a slow breath. I need to understand what happened after the courthouse. I cannot remember anything clearly. Ethan nodded, folding his hands. You were exhausted, and you kept saying you did not feel safe going back to your apartment. I took you to my hotel suite because it was the closest place where I knew you would be protected. I put you to bed, made sure you drank water, and stayed awake most of the night in the chair over there. He pointed to the armchair near the window. Olivia followed his gaze. The pillow was dented. The blanket was folded neatly. He really had slept there. Why did you not call a friend of mine? She asked. You tried, he said softly. 2 of your friends did not pick up. The third one told you she was out of town. Her heart sank. That was true. Her support system had thinned out long before last night. Ethan continued, his voice measured. You were upset. You said you felt replaceable. You said you felt like everyone leaves when it matters. I kept reassuring you that you were safe and that I was not going anywhere until you were calm. Olivia pressed a hand against her forehead. The memory flickered at the edges of her mind. Sitting in the back of a quiet taxi, her face wet with tears, Ethan's voice low and steady as he tried to steady her breathing. He had not touched her. He had not crossed any boundaries. He had only made sure she did not fall apart on a cold sidewalk at 2 in the morning. She swallowed hard. I do not know what to do with this information. Ethan leaned forward just a little, his tone respectful. You do not need to decide anything right now. Your safety was my priority last night, and your clarity is my priority this morning. Olivia exhaled shakily and looked down at her clothes. She was still wearing her jeans and her shirt from last night, wrinkled but untouched. He had even taken off her shoes for her and placed them by the nightstand. How long have you been awake? She asked quietly. Since 5, he replied. I wanted to be alert when you woke up. I knew you would be confused, and I did not want you to be alone. His consistency unsettled her in a way that was not unpleasant. She was used to men who promised one thing and delivered another. Ethan Cole, a man who could have bought half the building without blinking, was sitting in front of her like every word she said mattered. She needed air. Can we go somewhere else? I need to clear my head. Of course, Ethan said immediately. Where would you feel most comfortable? She hesitated. She did not want to go home. She did not want to step into the chaos of crowded city streets. She definitely did not want the staff downstairs to whisper about the CEO walking out with a disoriented woman wearing last night's clothes. Somewhere quiet, she murmured. Somewhere normal. Ethan nodded once, like he had been expecting that answer. There is a diner 2 blocks away. It opens early, and it is not fancy. They serve strong coffee and pancakes the size of a plate. Olivia blinked. You go to diners? A faint smile touched his lips. I do not only eat in boardrooms. He stood, but he waited for her to rise first. His movements were slow, careful, non-intrusive. When she wobbled a little from the leftover dizziness, he offered his arm without touching her unless she chose to take it. She did. As they walked down the quiet hallway and stepped into the elevator, Olivia could not stop glancing at him. The world knew Ethan Cole as the disciplined CEO of Cole Enterprises, a man who ran multi-million-dollar negotiations with a cold precision. But this version of him, soft-spoken, patient, attentive, did not match any headline she had ever read. When they exited onto the early morning sidewalk, the air smelled of wet pavement and fresh coffee drifting from somewhere in the distance. Ethan kept a respectful step beside her, matching her pace. Olivia, he said gently, whatever you decide to do next, you will not face it alone. His words landed deeper than she wanted them to. For the first time since opening her eyes, she wondered if last night's mistake was not a mistake at all. The diner sat at the corner of a quiet street, its neon sign flickering softly against the early morning haze. The moment Olivia stepped inside, the warmth of frying butter and fresh coffee wrapped around her like a blanket. It felt familiar, grounded, nothing like the polished marble halls she imagined a CEO like Ethan lived in. They took a booth near the window. The vinyl seat creaked slightly when she sat down, and for the first time since waking up, Olivia felt her heartbeat slow. Ethan took the opposite seat, folding his hands on the table with a kind of respectful distance, as if he was waiting for her to run if she needed to. The waitress approached with a bright smile. "Morning, folks. Coffee?" "Yes, please," Olivia said immediately. "For both of us," Ethan added. As the waitress walked away, Olivia whispered, "Do people here know you?" "Some do," he replied calmly, "but they respect privacy. It is one of the reasons I come here." Olivia studied him for a moment. In the gentle morning light, he did not look like the intimidating figure from news articles. He looked real, like a man who woke up early, drank coffee in worn-out booths, and tried to figure life out like everyone else. Her coffee arrived, and she wrapped her hands around the warm mug. "Last night, did I embarrass myself?" Ethan shook his head. "You were hurting. You were honest. That is not embarrassing." Olivia stared down at the coffee, her throat tightening. "People usually walk away when I fall apart." "I did not," he said softly. The simplicity of his words hit harder than anything else. She set the mug down carefully, afraid she might spill it with her unsteady hands. "Ethan, why did you stay with me all night? You barely know me." He took a moment to answer. "Because you deserved to feel safe. Because you asked me not to leave. And because I could tell you were not used to someone keeping their word." Her chest fluttered with something she did not want to name. The waitress returned with 2 plates pancakes stacked high and scrambled eggs on the side. Olivia stared at the portion and blinked. "This is huge." Ethan smiled. "Told you." She cut into the pancake, letting the steady rhythm of eating anchor her. For several minutes they ate quietly, the kind of silence that felt natural, not forced. When Olivia finally spoke again, her voice was steadier. "So, the marriage license. It is real?" "Yes," he replied. 100% real. Signed, filed, and legally binding. Her stomach dropped. "And you were planning to annul it today?" "Yes. I was going to bring it up after breakfast once you felt calmer." His tone remained gentle. "You deserve clarity." Olivia pushed her plate away slightly. "What would the annulment mean for you? For your reputation? I know the press watches you closely." "I can manage the press," he said. "What matters is that you are comfortable with whatever happens next." She looked up slowly. His eyes were steady, warm, almost too understanding. "Ethan, why are you being so patient with me?" His voice lowered. "Because last night, even in the state you were in, you treated me like a person and not a title. Do you know how rare that is for someone in my position?" Olivia blinked. She had not expected that answer. He continued. "You trusted me at your most vulnerable. The least I can do is give you the time and space to choose what you want, without pressure." The sincerity in his tone unsettled her in a way that made her feel seen, truly seen. She looked out the window, watching a bus rumble past. The city was waking up, people rushing to work, life moving forward. Meanwhile, her life had shifted into something she could not have imagined a single day ago. "Ethan," she said quietly, "if we annul the marriage, does everything between us end?" He held her gaze. "Only if that is what you want. I do not walk away easily." A knot formed in her chest. Before she could respond, the waitress returned with the check. Ethan reached for it instantly, sliding his black card onto the tray with a casual familiarity that reminded her of exactly who he was. When the waitress walked away, he stood and held out his hand to her. Not forceful, not demanding, just an invitation. "Olivia, let me walk you back. You do not have to decide anything today. But I am here. Whatever you choose, I am here." Her fingers hovered above his for a moment before she finally took his hand. Not because she had made a decision, but because, for the first time in a long time, she felt like she did not have to face her life alone. When they stepped back outside, the morning had brightened. The clouds were slowly breaking apart, letting strips of sunlight fall across the wet pavement. Olivia breathed in deeply, the cool air clearing a little more of the fog inside her mind. Ethan walked beside her, keeping just enough distance that she never felt crowded, but never far enough to feel alone. "Olivia," he said gently. Before we go any farther, I need to apologize if any part of last night made you feel forced into something you did not want. She shook her head. You did everything right. I was the one who was a mess. You were hurting, he replied. There is a difference. They turned the corner toward the hotel, and Olivia slowed her steps. She was not ready to go back inside. The building suddenly felt like too many questions, too many consequences. Sensing her hesitation, Ethan paused. Would you like to go somewhere else? He asked. She nodded. Maybe a walk. They crossed the street and entered a small public park. The paths were still damp from the rain, and the trees dripped softly, their branches casting dappled shadows on the ground. A few joggers passed by, dogs tugging at leashes, everyday life moving with an ease Olivia envied. They found an empty bench under a leafy oak tree. Olivia sat first, clasping her hands in her lap. Ethan sat beside her, careful to leave a respectful amount of space. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Olivia exhaled slowly. I keep trying to remember more of last night. I want to know what I said that made you think I needed protecting. Ethan stared ahead, watching a child chase pigeons. You told me you were tired of being disappointed. You said you kept choosing people who saw you as convenient. You said you would rather be alone forever than let someone break you again. Olivia winced. That sounds like me. What stayed with me, he continued, was the way you said it. Not angry, not dramatic, just tired, like you had reached the edge. Her throat tightened. She had felt that low for weeks, but last night had cracked something open. And the courthouse? She asked quietly. Why did you not stop me? I tried, he said. You were determined, and you were scared. When you asked me to promise I would not leave you in the morning like everyone else in your past had done, I knew the promise mattered more to you than the paperwork. Olivia closed her eyes. She remembered asking someone not to leave. She remembered crying, but she had not remembered his steady voice or his patience. She looked at him again. Why stay so calm through all of this? Most men would have run. I am not most men, Ethan said softly, and circumstances do not change my principles. A breeze rustled through the leaves above them. Olivia studied him carefully now. Everything about him was composed, but there was sincerity beneath the surface, a quiet steadiness that felt impossible to fake. You keep giving me space, she said. You keep making sure I am choosing things and not being swept up in something. I want you to trust that you are safe with me. Not because of the title I hold, he replied, but because of the man that I am. Olivia looked down at her hands. Do you regret saying yes last night? No, he answered without hesitation. I regret that you were hurting, but I do not regret being there. His voice held no hesitation, no carefulness, only truth. Before Olivia could respond, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She flinched, startled. Ethan glanced at her with concern as she pulled it out. The screen lit up with a text from her landlord. Rent past due. You have until tomorrow or the locks will be changed. Her stomach dropped. All the air seemed to leave her lungs. Ethan saw the fear in her eyes. What is wrong? She handed him the phone with trembling fingers. He read the message, his expression shifting from concern to something firmer, sharper, protective. Olivia, he said quietly, you should not have to face this alone. Not today. Not after everything. She shook her head, overwhelmed. I cannot let you fix my problems. That is not fair to you. And it makes me feel like you are a burden, Ethan finished gently. You are not. Her eyes stung. He held her gaze, steady as stone. Let me help. Not because of last night, not because of the ring, but because you deserve stability before making any decision about us. She felt the world tilt again, but this time not from fear, from something warm, something dangerously close to hope. Can I think about it? She whispered. Of course, he replied. Take all the time you need. I am not going anywhere. For the first time since she had woken up, Olivia felt the ground beneath her steady. Ethan Cole was still a stranger in many ways, but he was also the one person who had not walked away when she had fallen apart. Maybe that meant something. Maybe it meant everything. The breeze grew cooler as the morning sun rose higher, scattering soft light across the park path. Olivia tucked her phone back into her pocket, but the weight of the message stayed heavy on her chest. The threat of losing her apartment felt like a storm cloud creeping over everything, dark and unavoidable. Ethan watched her carefully, not demanding an answer, not rushing her, simply waiting. "Do you want to walk a little more?" he asked gently. She nodded. They rose from the bench and followed the curved path that led toward a small pond. Ducks glided across the water, their ripples soft and calming. The world around them looked peaceful, but Olivia's mind churned. She finally spoke. "I have been doing everything I can to stay afloat. I work double shifts, I try to keep up with bills, but it feels like life keeps demanding more than I can give." Ethan slowed his steps. "You do not have to justify anything to me. But I feel like I do," she said quietly. "Because now there is this situation between us, and I do not want you to think I am taking advantage of it." Ethan turned to face her fully. "Olivia, I know exactly who you are. You did not ask for anything last night. You did not even know who I was. You have every right to accept help without shame." Her eyes softened, but her shoulders remained tense. "It just feels strange. I barely know you, and yet everything in my life suddenly feels tied to you." "It does not have to be," he said. "Whatever happens between us can move at your pace." They continued walking, the soft crunch of gravel under their shoes filling the quiet space. Olivia wrapped her arms around herself, not from the cold, but from the uncertainty swirling inside her. "I do not want you to think I am choosing you because I am scared," she said. "Or because it is convenient." Ethan nodded. "That is why I am giving you space. I do not want fear influencing anything you decide." He stopped walking for a moment and looked out at the water. "When my parents died, I had to grow up quickly. I learned early that people with nothing lose stability the fastest. I know the kind of fear you are feeling. It is the same fear that shaped my entire childhood." Olivia stared at him, surprised. She had imagined his life as perfect, polished, supported by wealth from the beginning. "I never knew that," she whispered. "You would not," he said calmly. "I do not talk about it publicly. But I tell you now because I want you to understand something. I did not become who I am to look down on others. I became who I am because I know how easily everything can crumble." His honesty reached her deeper than she expected. They walked again, slower this time. Olivia felt the tension in her chest ease just enough for clarity to slip in. "When my landlord threatens to change the locks, it is not just an inconvenience," she said. "It is losing everything I have left, and I hate that I need help." "Needing help is not a weakness," Ethan replied. "Refusing to offer it would be." She swallowed hard. "If I accept your help, what does that mean for us?" "It means," Ethan answered, "that I am supporting you as someone I care about, not as someone who owes me anything." Her chest tightened. She had not expected him to use the word care so openly. They reached a wooden railing that overlooked the pond. Olivia leaned on it, her thoughts swirling like the water below. "Ethan," she said softly, "I do not want to annul the marriage today. I am not saying I want to stay married forever. I need time. I need to understand what this is." Ethan's expression softened with relief, but he kept his voice steady. "Thank you for telling me. We can take it one day at a time. Whatever pace feels right for you." A small smile tugged at her lips. "You really do not walk away easily, do you?" "No," he said, allowing a warm smile of his own. "Not from the things that matter." They stood there for a moment, silent but connected in a way neither fully understood yet. Olivia felt the first hint of stability since waking up. Not certainty, not answers. Just a sense that she was not alone in the chaos. Ethan shifted slightly. "Let me take you home. We can look at the apartment situation together. I will not make decisions for you, but I can help you figure out your options." Olivia exhaled, feeling a mix of fear and strange comfort. "All right, but promise you will not do anything without asking me first." Ethan nodded. "You have my word." And for the first time all morning, Olivia believed him. The ride back to Olivia's apartment was quiet but not uncomfortable. Ethan drove with steady hands, his eyes focused on the road as the city moved around them in smooth blurs of glass and concrete. Olivia watched the buildings pass by, each block pulling her closer to the place she feared she might soon lose. Her stomach tightened the closer they came to her neighborhood. When they parked in front of her building, Olivia stared at the familiar brick exterior with a sinking heart. The chipped paint on the staircase railing, the shutter that never closed properly. The mailbox that squeaked every time it opened, flaws she used to accept now felt like a countdown to losing everything. Ethan stepped out of the car first and came around to her side, opening the door without assuming she needed help. "Take your time," he said softly. They climbed the stairs together. On the landing, Olivia hesitated before unlocking the door. She braced herself for the mess she had left behind last night, a jacket tossed on the floor, dishes in the sink, reminders of a life she had been juggling by a thread. She pushed the door open. Everything looked exactly as chaotic as she had imagined. Olivia felt heat rush into her cheeks, embarrassed by the contrast between her small apartment and the luxury she knew Ethan was accustomed to. But he did not look judgmental. He did not look out of place. He walked in with quiet respect, as if stepping into someone's sacred space. "Do you want to sit?" he asked. She shook her head. "I should check the mail." Her breath stalled when she opened the mailbox slot under her door. A folded notice sat on top of a stack of envelopes. She already knew what it was before she unfolded it. Final notice. Payment required within 24 hours. Her hands trembled. Ethan stepped closer, but he did not touch her. "Olivia, it is real," she whispered. "I cannot pay this." Her voice cracked, frustration and fear tightening her throat. She tried to hide the tears forming in her eyes, but Ethan noticed instantly. "Olivia," he said gently, "please sit down." She sank onto the couch, holding the notice like it was a verdict. Ethan sat beside her, leaving enough space that she did not feel trapped. "You have been carrying all of this alone for a long time," he said softly. She nodded, unable to speak. "Let me help," he continued. "Not by fixing everything for you, but by giving you room to breathe. You cannot make decisions when your world is collapsing around you." Olivia pressed a hand to her forehead. "Ethan, I do not want to feel like I owe you anything." "You will not," he replied. "If you choose to walk away from the marriage, I will still help you. If you choose to explore what this connection might be, I will still help you. My support is not conditional." His voice was calm but firm, the same tone he had used when reassuring her the night before. She lowered the notice into her lap. "You talk like this is easy." "It is not," he said. "But you do not have to navigate it alone. Not anymore." Olivia let out a shaky breath and looked around her apartment. The small dining table, the single lamp flickering near the couch, the cracked tile near the kitchen sink. These were all the pieces of a life she had built with so much effort. The idea of losing it terrified her. Ethan spoke again, carefully. "I can cover the overdue rent. You can pay me back when you are ready. Or not. That is your choice." She swallowed hard. "If I let you do that, does it tie me to you?" "No," he said. "Your choices will always be your own. I am not here to control your life. I am here because I care." His honesty washed over her like warm water, dissolving some of the fear she clung to. Olivia looked up, meeting his eyes. "I do not know what this is between us. We will figure it out," he said softly. "One step at a time." Her breath trembled, but she nodded. Before she could say more, a loud knock startled her. Ethan's eyes sharpened, instantly alert. Olivia froze. Another knock, heavier this time. "Olivia Hayes," a voice called from the other side. "This is your landlord. We need to talk." Olivia's heart dropped. Ethan placed a steady hand on the back of the couch, not touching her, but anchoring the space around her. "Do you want me to stay?" he asked quietly. Olivia looked toward the door, fear tightening her chest, then back at Ethan, the man who had held her together through the mess of the night, the morning, and now this. "Yes," she whispered. "Please stay." Ethan nodded once, calm and certain. "I am right here." And he was, just as he promised he would be. The knocking grew louder, each thud rattling the thin door and sending a tremor through Olivia's chest. Ethan stayed perfectly still beside her, steady as a pillar, his eyes focused on the entrance with calm control. Olivia pushed herself up from the couch, her legs unsteady, and walked toward the door with Ethan following a step behind her. When she pulled it open, her landlord, Mr. Crawley, stood in the hallway. His arms were crossed, and his expression was hard, tired, and impatient. He glanced at Olivia first, then his eyes slid to Ethan, lingering on the expensive watch, the tailored shirt, the calm posture. "Well, Mr. Crawley said, Looks like you finally have someone who can pay your rent. Olivia's cheeks flushed with heat. Mr. Crawley, that is not. He cut her off. You are 3 weeks late. I have been more than patient. I need the payment today, or the lock changes tomorrow morning. That is the final policy. Ethan stepped forward just slightly, his presence subtle but grounding. Sir, I understand the urgency, but you do not need to speak to her like that, Mr. Crawley scoffed. And who are you exactly? A friend, Ethan replied calmly. A friend who would appreciate a respectful tone. The landlord's eyes darted between them again, suspicion replacing annoyance. You plan on paying her debt? That is between Olivia and me, Ethan said. But if you want your money, you will get it. Today. Olivia turned to him, startled. She had expected support, but the certainty in his voice still shocked her. Mr. Crawley shrugged, clearly more interested in results than explanations. Fine. I will be back at 5. If it is not paid, the eviction process starts. He left without another word, the sound of his footsteps echoing down the hallway. Olivia closed the door slowly and leaned against it, her breath shaking. He thinks I am useless. He thinks I cannot manage anything on my own. Ethan turned to her immediately. He thinks none of those things. He is a landlord who wants money. That is all. She sank back onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. I hate this. I hate needing help. I hate that you saw that. Ethan sat down beside her, keeping his voice steady. Olivia, no one deserves to go through this alone. Needing help does not make you weak. She looked up with red-rimmed eyes. But it makes me feel like I am dragging you into my chaos. You are not dragging me, Ethan said. I am choosing to be here. His words hit her harder than she expected. She swallowed, trying to steady her breathing, but the flood of emotions made it impossible to mask the trembling in her voice. Why? She whispered. Why would you choose this? I am a mess. I am not the kind of woman someone like you should be tangled up with. Ethan's gaze softened. Olivia, you do not know what I should or should not want. I am here because I see someone who is trying her best. Someone who has survived more than most people ever will. Someone who showed me honesty when she was at her lowest. That was not strength, she murmured. That was desperation. Sometimes those two things look the same, he replied. Her chest tightened, and for the first time since meeting him, Olivia felt the tearful ache of connection. Not fear, not panic, something deeper, something she was afraid to name. A long silence lingered between them until Ethan spoke again. Olivia, I can help you pay the rent, but that does not mean you owe me anything. It does not bind you to me. It does not change your choices. She took a shaky breath. If I let you do this, does it make our marriage more real? Ethan paused, then answered with gentle honesty. No. What makes it real is what we choose to build together. Not a bill, not a signature. Her voice dropped. And if I choose to end it later, I will respect that, he said. I will stand beside you through whatever decision you make. Olivia looked away, blinking back tears she did not want him to see. The emotional weight of losing her home mixed with the steady comfort Ethan kept offering, making her feel more vulnerable than ever before. Thank you, she whispered finally. For staying. I promised I would, Ethan said softly. He reached out very slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she did not, he placed his hand gently over hers. It was the smallest gesture, but it felt like a lifeline. A fragile quiet settled between them, no longer heavy with fear but with something unspoken and growing stronger by the minute. And Olivia realized that for the first time in a long time, she did not feel like she was falling. She felt like someone was there to catch her. The afternoon sun had shifted slightly by the time Mr. Crawley returned. Olivia heard his heavy footsteps on the stairs before he even reached the landing. She stood in the center of the living room, her hands clasped tightly together, her breath unsteady. Ethan stood beside her, not imposing, not overshadowing, simply present, steady, grounding. A sharp knock echoed through the apartment. Olivia stiffened. Ethan gave her a small nod, silently reminding her that she was not alone. She opened the door. Mr. Crawley stood there with a clipboard tucked under his arm. His expression was impatient, already expecting another excuse. It is 5. Do you have the payment or not? Olivia took a deep breath. but her voice still quivered. I do. Before the landlord could respond, Ethan stepped forward and handed him a check. This covers the overdue amount, plus the next month, and I would appreciate confirmation that her lease remains in good standing. Mr. Crawley blinked in surprise but quickly straightened his posture, examining the check with greedy satisfaction. Well, this is acceptable. He signed the receipt attached to his clipboard and handed it to Olivia. We are clear, no more issues. Then he left, barely offering a goodbye. The door clicked shut behind him. Olivia stood frozen, staring at the receipt in her hand. Relief washed over her so quickly it almost knocked her breath away. The apartment was safe. The pressure on her chest finally loosened. Ethan watched her quietly, not demanding thanks, not waiting for praise, just watching her find her breath again. Olivia, he said softly, you are safe now. She sank onto the couch, overwhelmed. Tears blurred her vision again, but this time they were not from fear, they were from release, from the strange comfort of finally not carrying everything alone. I do not know how to thank you, she whispered. You already have, he replied. You trusted me. She shook her head. That does not feel like enough. Then let us start with something small, he said gently. Let us talk. Let us figure out what this marriage means to you, to me, to both of us. She looked at him, her breath catching. Do you want it to mean something? Ethan sat beside her, closer than before but still respectful. I want it to be real. But only if you want it too. I will never pressure you. Her voice dropped to a faint whisper. I thought last night was a mistake, and now? He asked. Olivia looked around her apartment, the place she had fought so hard to keep, the place that had nearly slipped away. Then she looked at Ethan, the man who had stayed through the tears, the confusion, the chaos, without complaint or hesitation. Now I am thinking, she said softly, that maybe I was not wrong to trust you. Ethan's expression softened. We can take this slowly. We do not need to define everything today. She hesitated, then reached for his hand. This time, she was the one who initiated the touch. Ethan stilled slightly, surprised, but then he intertwined his fingers with hers gently, as if holding something priceless. The quiet between them shifted. Not heavy, not uncertain. Something warm, something starting. When I woke up this morning, Olivia said, I thought I had ruined my life. I thought I had trapped myself in something reckless. And now? Ethan asked again, his voice low. Now I think, she said, I might have stumbled into something I did not even know I needed. Ethan inhaled softly, the faintest smile touching his lips. Olivia, whatever future we explore, it will be because you choose it, not because of a ring, not because of a courthouse, because of us. Her heart fluttered at the word us. A long, quiet moment settled between them. Comfortable, honest, new. Olivia squeezed his hand gently. So what now? Ethan looked at her with a steadiness that made her breath catch. Now, he said, we start over. Properly. Not as strangers who shared a reckless night, but as two people who want to see where this can go. She nodded slowly. I would like that. Ethan leaned back slightly, relief washing over his features. Then it is settled, one step at a time. As the last of the daylight spilled through the window, illuminating the living room with a warm, golden glow, Olivia realized something she had not allowed herself to believe in a long time. Maybe her life was not falling apart. Maybe it was shifting into something new, something steadier, something honest, something real. And sitting beside her, still holding her hand, was the man who had chosen to stay through every storm of the last 24 hours, Ethan Cole. Her accidental husband, and possibly the safest place she had ever landed. The golden light drifting through the apartment continued to soften as evening approached, casting long, warm shadows over the walls. Olivia had changed into a clean sweater, her hair pulled back loosely, her face free of the strain she had carried all day. Ethan sat with her at the small dining table, 2 mugs of tea between them, as the world outside slowly quieted. For the first time since waking up that morning, Olivia felt the kind of calm that did not come from escape, but from finally having room to breathe. Ethan watched her with quiet attention, not pressing, not expecting, simply anchoring the moment. I keep thinking about how different this day could have been, Olivia said softly. If you had not been there, I do not know what I would have done. You would have survived, Ethan said. You always do. She smiled faintly. Maybe, but it would have been harder. Ethan held her gaze for a moment before speaking. Olivia, what happened between us last night was unexpected. It was messy, emotional, and overwhelming. But today, everything you have said, every choice you have made, came from clarity, not panic. She nodded slowly, absorbing his words. I do not want you to feel like you owe me a relationship, he continued, or a promise, or anything you are not ready for. Olivia took a sip of her tea, gathering her thoughts. When I woke up this morning, I thought the ring on my finger meant I had thrown away every chance at stability. I thought I had tied myself to a stranger. And now? He asked gently. Now, she said, meeting his eyes. I think the stranger is the only person who has stood by me without asking for anything in return. Ethan's expression softened, the weight in his eyes shifting into something warmer, something hopeful. She placed her mug down carefully. I do not want to annul the marriage. Ethan inhaled slowly, not with shock, but with the deep breath of someone taking in something precious. Are you sure? Yes, she said, but I want to redefine what it means. Not a contract, not a mistake, not something rushed or forced. I want us to move forward as two people who are choosing this, day by day. Ethan nodded. That is all I have ever wanted. The choice. Her voice grew quieter. I am scared. I do not know what this will become. Neither do I, he admitted, but I am willing to find out. With you. Silence settled again, not heavy, but full. A silence that felt like possibility. Ethan stood and walked toward the kitchen counter, picking up the simple silver ring she had taken off earlier when washing her hands. He returned to the table and held it gently between his fingers. May I? He asked. Olivia hesitated for a moment, then extended her hand. Not because she felt trapped, not because she felt obligated, but because the act felt right. Ethan slid the ring back onto her finger slowly, carefully, like a promise formed from quiet truth instead of grand gestures. This time, he said softly, the ring does not represent a night you barely remember. It represents a choice you made with a clear mind and an open heart. Olivia's throat tightened. And it represents my promise, he continued, his voice low and unwavering, to treat you with respect, to support you without taking away your independence, to walk beside you, not in front of you or behind you, and to give this whatever time it needs to grow. Her eyes glistened. Ethan, no one has ever talked to me like that. He brushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear, gentle and slow. Then it is about time someone did. The moment held them there, suspended between the past they were leaving behind and the uncertain but hopeful future ahead. Olivia leaned forward, resting her forehead lightly against his. He exhaled, a quiet breath that matched hers, perfectly in sync. Whatever happens next, she whispered, I want us to face it together. Ethan smiled, not wide, but full of sincerity. Together, he repeated. They stayed like that for a long moment, letting the evening settle around them like a new beginning, not a contract. Not an accident, not a mistake, but the first step into something real. And as the last rays of sunlight faded from the apartment, Olivia realized she was no longer afraid of what tomorrow might bring. For the first time in a very long time, she did not feel alone.